Well, New South Wales has recorded 415 new cases of community transmission and 4 deaths on the first full day of statewide lockdown. 276 of those are mystery cases.
I can't stress enough the seriousness of the current situation and my grave concerns that these case numbers will continue to escalate.
The ACT has 2 new confirmed cases, bringing their total to 9. Victoria's recorded 25 new cases, 4 of those with no known links to the current outbreak.
We are seeing these numbers grow and much greater risk of those mystery cases seeding further if people continue to not follow the rules.
The PM's announced an additional 1 million doses of Pfizer are on the way from Poland in response to Australia's international pleas for help. The vaccines start arriving in Australia tonight, with 530,000 of them earmarked for 20 to 39-year-olds living in Sydney hotspots.
These 1 million doses of hope, which will give people right across the country, particularly in New South Wales, where they are fighting this Delta strain in the most significant battle we have had in this country during the course of the COVID-19 pandemic.
WHO advisor Professor Mary Louise McLaws always knows how to give it to us straight, and she joins us now. Professor, how much of a boost will these Pfizer doses from Poland be?
Good evening, Peter. Look, it'll be fantastic. It's great news. The 20 to 39-year-olds have always been epidemiologically one of the most important age groups for acquiring and spreading this disease. And certainly the 16-year-olds to 20-year-olds are going to be able to access Pfizer. So it's a really great addition to the strategy of trying to reduce transmission.
Mary Louise, you've got every right to say I told you so, because you've been calling for that generation to get the jab for quite some time. Now, in combination with the new statewide lockdown, are we finally going to see cases come down in New South Wales, do you think?
Peter, I have to tell you some bad news. I think it'll be quite some time. I mean, this is the 50th day of lockdown, and we have over 7,300 odd cases since lockdown. It doesn't look as if that proportion outside of isolation has dropped, and that's the proportion we need. What would be really helpful for us to be able to understand and even predict is if the authorities gave us more granular context of who's getting it when they're not in full isolation.
Mary Louise, that sounds like crucial information we should be getting. Do you have any idea why they wouldn't be sharing that?
Lisa, I'm not sure. I mean, they certainly have a proportion that are always under investigation, but they will know of those that haven't been in isolation and are not under current investigation exactly how they acquired it. And they could tell us also what happened the day before if they don't know exactly for the data to 8 p.m.
Professor, masks are still not mandatory outdoors in New South Wales. Can you put the argument to rest or to bed? Will mask wearing outdoors, if they're mandatory, will that make a difference?
Now, it will make a difference. Delta is at least 60% more infectious than Alpha, and Alpha was very infectious. But when you're outside, if there's no air, no wind, and you're passing somebody, you don't have to have 15 minutes of exposure to breathe in somebody's exhaled air. So if you're passing somebody and they're talking or laughing, then they're pushing out particles. And if you happen to be susceptible, elderly, haven't had your first vaccination, you will catch Delta. Now, most of it's probably occurring indoors, but nevertheless, we shouldn't ever get complacent.
So just to be clear, Mary Louise, your recommendation is everyone should be wearing these outdoors because Delta is different?
Because Delta is different and it's highly contagious, so please wear a mask when you're outside, except for if you're running. If you're running, run away from crowds. Do not run anywhere near people because you're pushing out particles. You may feel very fit, but you could be in the early phases of being contagious.
Professor Mary Louise McLaws, as always, thanks so much for your insights.
It's a pleasure. Stay safe.
From expert opinions to in-depth analysis and reporting, the Project YouTube brings you the biggest stories from Australia and around the globe. Hit the subscribe button now for news delivered straight to your feed.